Welcome. This is
Àròyé
with
Olúkáyọ̀dé Olúbùnmi.
celebrating, elevating, innovating, motivating Africa.
Àròyé. Dream is defined as a series or succession of thoughts, images, or emotions occurring in the mind while a person is sleeping or relaxing. It is a condition or achievement that is longed for, an aspiration, a vision of hope or wish. It is a state of mind marked by abstraction or release from reality. A dream is something notable for its beauty, excellence, or enjoyable quality. A strongly desired goal or purpose. To dream is to indulge in fantasies, to pass time in reverie or inaction, to conceive as desirable, possible, or practical. A state of abstraction, a state of trance, one that is exceptionally gratifying. It is a wild fancy or unrealistic hope. There is more to dreams than just good or bad. A pipe dream is an idea or plan that is impossible or very unlikely to happen. A dream team is a group of people who have been specially chosen to work together or are considered to be the best at what they do. A dream world is the fantasy of people's minds which cannot be put into active operation. Fever dream is a very strange experience or situation, usually a bad one, that seems like a dream rather than something that would really happen. Dream sequence is a series of events in a movie, television show, performance, or book that are experienced by one of the characters. Dream ticket is a perfect combination, especially a combination of two politicians working for one party in an election. And there is also the American dream, which I will not attempt to define here, but I do want to talk about the African dream. Welcome. This is Àròyé with Olúkáyọ̀dé Olúbùnmi. First, I want to say a very big thank you to all of you who responded to our premiere episode with so much kindness and encouragement. Thank you for showing your love through your subscription, support, and sharing. Please keep the support coming and we'll keep the excellence going. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, it's time to grab your favorite snacks and let's get this show on the road. It's story time. With the Tyranny of Hand-Me-Down Dreams by Tosin Ogundare. I was born in a rural West African country known for her beautiful landscape and enchanting forest, but not so benign or reconciled with the political upheaval of those days and its lasting effect during my early years. The beauty of the rolling hills, verdant outdoors, and water bodies that were the subjects of many folklores were lost on a people whose only goal from dawn till dusk was survival. Growing up in a military controlled country makes for a difficult childhood, but affords many interesting dexterities that are now outside the norm. But I cherish them regardless. Dexterities like making palm oil from palm fruits, making soap, using a grindstone for tomatoes, peppers, and onions instead of a blender, cooking with firewood underneath an open sky nightly, and racing home with waterlogged shoes in the rain. My current circumstances have diverged from the realities of my childhood home. After almost a decade and a half in the US, trying to realize my so called hand me down dreams. My story is the story of my antecedents, a tale that began long before I was born in a remote village in the then western region of Nigeria. You see, my parents were born in a colonial Nigeria to local farmers who had no use for Western education. It would have been an exercise in futility, not as it pertains to the value of its applications. Rather, the nature of the training at the time would have been incompatible with the prevailing culture. Neither of my parents knew precisely when they were born. This is not uncommon for people born in those days. Later in life, my parents estimated their ages based on stories of events around the time of their birth and when they started elementary school. Although the prevailing ethos at the time of my grandparents and their antecedents placed no value on knowledge paraded by the Europeans as basic education. What could not be denied, even then, is European imperialism. The colonial masters were steady in their resolve to occupy the continent until our citizens come of age, so to speak. To qualify to begin school, your hand had to reach around to touch your ears on the other side of your face. This certifies a person to be at least 6 years old. The local modern school, as it was called, was built in the 1940s by Catholic missionaries and served as a means for the local youth at that time to learn some of European culture, arithmetic, elementary science, and English literature. The story goes that my grandparents were among the few who indulged some of their children in this manner. I imagine the ones not really useful on the farm were primary candidates for this experiment. I believe that the underlying hope was that learning some of Oyibo culture would ultimately help to bridge the divide between the colonial masters and foster the mutual existence of both cultures with minimal conflict. My father was one of such youths growing up in the late 1940s and attending modern school in the early 1950s. My mother would do likewise in the late 1950s, both of them abandoning their original names in favor of names given by the Catholic Church. In a way, my father's dream was an extension of his own father's dream to excel and be first among equals. My father believed very earnestly earlier on that Western education is the only way to differentiate himself from his peers and fulfill his father's mandate. About the same period, oil was discovered in Nigeria. after completing modern school and a teacher's training program in Ibadan, he moved to Port Harcourt, a growing urban area in eastern Nigeria. My father, gone from his childhood home, went to work for the burgeoning oil and gas industry, with drilling locations and production facilities located mainly in the eastern part of the country. Nigeria gained independence in 1960 and moved towards self-governance. The country needed leaders and an educated workforce to thrive in a modern world. Possibilities were endless for the educated youth. Although this experiment in self-governance quickly dissolved into chaos and civil war within the first decade, largely due to a lack of unity among the leaders of the indigenous tribes. It turns out that the brilliant minds who so elegantly withstood the British could not get over their own ego to foster unified nationalism. In spite of the growing dissent among our national leaders, we were still free to create our own future and shape our collective destiny. My father had observed that most of the people with a voice on the national stage, as it were, had been educated overseas. Consequently, his own personal dissatisfaction enjoyed a growth spurt, one that led him to apply for admission into an accounting program at a school in Wales. As with most immigrants from impoverished backgrounds, he lied on his application as to the condition of his family and his finances. His initial visa application was denied, and he would continue as an analyst for the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, for 2 more years before reapplying for a student visa at the British Embassy. This time, his visa application was approved, and he went on to study accounting at what was known at the time as Gwen College of Higher Education, and he later becoming a chartered accountant. This is where we draw the curtain for now. Join us for the conclusion of the story in the next episode. Stay with us. Welcome back. Here are some questions for your thought. What is your take on hand-me-down dreams? Is it a good or bad thing? If it is bad, what is the antidote to hand-me-down dreams? Please send your responses to aroye@okhouse.com. And remember, whether or not you have a hand-me-down dream, what matters most is that you have a dream. See you soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Africa. Subscribe, support, and share.
Aroye